Disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm the fishiest doll, because in my last video people were trying to shade me. There are some girls who didn't watch my whole video, and a hit dog is gonna holler, meaning they took offense to something I said in the video and they started coming for me. Some girls were calling me brick, and it's like, I actually look a lot more bricky on camera than I do in real life. In real life, listen, I'm not saying it's all the time, but it's like, keep it cute, because it's like, you really don't know who you're talking to. But remember why you want to pass. Not for a man, not for other people. This transition is for you to live your most authentic self as best as possible. Not every doll passes, it's just reality. Some get lucky, some don't. Some get to start early enough for them personally, some don't. Some have access to certain things that would change the game for them, some don't. It's just what it is. Take the challenge head on, but like, don't lose yourself in trying to pass. Hey you guys, it's Ari the doll. You already know what to call me, and I'm back with a new video. Today's video is gonna be why passing matters. I know passing is a controversial topic within the community, but at the end of the day, passing plays a role severely in your quality of life as a doll. We all have to be honest about it, it does. So what exactly is passing? Passing is navigating through your daily life without someone assuming that you're of trans background. You know, like, that's literally it. And what is the purpose of passing? Well, there's multiple purposes of passing, but it's relieving dysphoria and affirming your like identity. Like, when you pass as who you are, that's a good thing. It means, like, you know, like, I feel like it's self-explanatory. When you pass, you blend in society better and you have better chances at making more meaningful connections. When you pass, you are less likely to experience transphobia, harassment, discrimination, violence. When you pass, you have access to better career opportunities. You really do. When you pass, you have better access to services in general, such as using the washroom. That is a service. Not like, you get what I mean? Like, when you use a public washroom, that is like a service you have access to. And it's like, when you pass, you have easier access to that service. Do you get what I'm saying here? I just want to say, not everybody's goal is to pass, and that's okay for them. If your goal is to pass, that's okay. If your goal isn't to pass, like, not to say you're trying not to pass, but your goal isn't necessarily to pass, that's okay. You do what works for you. Everybody needs to do what works for them. When it comes to dolls and passing, there's a heightened pressure to pass in order to be treated accordingly in society, but to also not face harassment, to just have a better life. You know, when you pass, there are multiple benefits, tangible and non-tangible, that you get from passing. This might sound controversial, but to some dolls, passing is seen as a milestone or as like a major achievement in transition. But like I said, it's a controversial topic overall, because it's like, some people don't have the goal to pass, but I feel like it's not wrong if you do. It's also not wrong if you don't. Passing does not equal self-worth. You are worthy, you are human, you are worthy of being treated with respect, you're worthy of, you know, living your life as yourself. You're worthy of so many things, and you should be able to do that whether you pass or not. When you hyper focus on passing, listen, it can become a drag. When you hyper focus on passing, you like lose all chances of being happy. It's like, you focus on the features that you feel clock you out, spending countless money on surgeries you might not really even need. It's just like, your self-esteem when you constantly get at yourself, it's like your self-esteem is gonna be down. Approach it properly, you know, like, please. Okay, now we're gonna actually get into why passing matters. Disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm the fishiest doll, because in my last video people were trying to shade me. There are some girls who didn't watch my whole video, and a hit dog is gonna holler, meaning they took offense to something I said in the video and they started coming for me. Some girls were calling me brick, and it's like, I actually look a lot more bricky on camera than I do in real life. This is not my best angle. In real life, listen, I'm not saying it's all the time, but it's like, keep it cute, because it's like, you really don't know who you're talking to. Back to why passing matters. Getting to the point of passing, I'm not even at the point of fully passing. It's not like a one-stop shop for everybody. Like, for some people, they might get there sooner, other people might get there later, and the reasons will vary. Do not compare yourself to other people when it comes to passing. When you pass, you are less likely to be a victim of transphobia. You're less likely to be a victim of harassment due to being trans. You're less likely to be a victim of a crime due to being trans when you pass. When you pass, that eliminates those problems. And while, yes, passing does eliminate those problems, there's still, like, you can still be a victim to misogyny, but it's like, one thing gets dealt with and another thing comes. Being visibly trans is a lot more dangerous than just existing as a woman, because nobody's checking for you. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? When you pass though, you avoid being discriminated against. If you are visibly trans, people will clock that and people try to make fun of you. People try to make you feel bad about yourself. What are people really gonna do if they don't clock that? You're just a regular, you know, like, there's nothing to clock. So when you pass, that problem is eliminated. When you pass, you have smoother experiences with law enforcement. And this is not me saying go be bad girls. I'm not saying that. But like, let's say you get pulled over, or let's say, you know, government or police need to see your ID or something. When you pass legally, when you pass socially, when you have transitioned and you pass, you are more likely to have smoother interactions with law enforcement. When you pass, you do feel validated. You feel like the work you put in pays off. You feel like you've reached a stage of your transition. You feel like, you know, you're progressing. You feel validated that you blend in, you are seen by others as your true self. That validation comes from passing. And you can get that validation in other ways, but passing does bring that validation. The other one is social validation. When you pass, you are treated accordingly, no questions asked. Because you pass, it's like people acknowledge you properly, you're treated properly, your interactions align properly because you pass. There comes that social validation where you're able to navigate society the accurate way because you pass. Discrimination in the workplace is normal for a lot of trans women, and it poses as barriers for them to really do much in the workplace. When you pass, a lot of those barriers are now removed. You will always have barriers just for being a woman, but those barriers based off transphobia are now gone. When you pass, you are essentially free from transphobia because you pass. Now, if someone knows your tea, that's a different situation, but like, generally speaking, when you pass, you are not going to be insulted from the angle of being trans. Lastly, why passing matters. It is an achievement. When you pass, it means, and passing isn't just HRT and surgeries alone. It's a whole collection of things. So when you begin to pass, that is an achievement because it means the work you're putting in is paying off, but it means, you know, your transition is going well. This isn't to say if you aren't passing, your transition isn't going well, but like I said, to many girls, passing is a goal because they see themselves as binary women. What they want to see in the mirror is a woman because that's how they feel. There's a lot of pressure from society for trans women to pass. Women are valued for beauty, not beauty alone, but one of women's values is beauty. They feel like passing will allow society to accept them. It will allow them to be perceived the proper way. And when it comes to appearance and beauty, that is one of the things women are valued for. And so when it comes to trans women, reaching that standard becomes a goal of theirs, reasonably so. I'm not saying it's the right thing. When I say the right thing, I mean in terms of society, but that's just how it is. And when it comes to meeting that standard, you tend to be treated accordingly, which is what a lot of dolls want. Pressure to pass as well, because within the community, it's a lot of girls' goals. So if that's not your goal, you're all of a sudden going to be pressured to make that one of your goals because that's constantly what you're surrounded by. When you get to the point of passing, it's because you got your HRT, it's because you got your legal transition sorted out, it's because you did your social transition, and social transitioning is not cheap either. You did your laser, you might have gotten surgery. Not everybody has access to the resources to get those things. It can even be access to HRT. It's like not everybody has access to that, and that is a barrier to passing. Another thing that can be a barrier to passing is intersectionality, where it's like sometimes your race, your body type, your voice, your socioeconomic class, many things can determine or impact your ability to pass. Now we are gonna get into the privilege of passing. When someone passes, their quality of life as a doll is significantly increased, or at least impacted, versus if they were to not pass. Not every doll passes, it's just reality. Some get lucky, some don't. Some get to start early enough for them personally, some don't. Some have access to certain things that would change the game for them, some don't. It's just what it is. Like I said earlier, some of the privileges to passing, you're less likely to be discriminated against, less likely to be the victim of a crime, experience harassment, violence due to being trans, better career opportunities, easier navigation in society, just better quality of life. You're able to go through the world and not have something so controversial be so visible. When I say controversial, being trans is something that's very commonly and heavily discriminated against. So that's why I say controversial. Just get to blend into society and just have more meaningful connections, able to do more, have more access to things. When you don't happen to pass, you're more likely to struggle from unique experiences that not many people experience, like from the general population. Your safety is at risk when you don't pass, especially if you live in like more third world countries and you don't pass. It's like your safety is at risk. You are likely to be the victim of a crime. Someone could really do something to you and most likely get away with it. You might also tend to deal with like social or romantic challenges where it's like when you don't pass, you might be alienated or ostracized when you're in public. You might not be taken seriously, or when it comes to relationships, you're more fetishized or viewed as just an object rather than a human being when you don't happen to pass. When you don't happen to pass, you most likely experience workplace discrimination from your colleagues. And it's like you can't really do much, you can't really complain much because it's like you aren't protected. You don't have that privilege. You should have that privilege, but you don't. When you don't pass, you might have a much more negative experience with dysphoria due to all these experiences that happen to you based on not passing. When you tend to not pass, you might find yourself advocating for yourself or trying to educate others on why what they're doing is wrong, but a lot of them really don't care, and it's just like draining for you. There's not many people who have to advocate themselves to this degree as a doll who might not pass. Another struggle is they might live in a third world country that completely criminalizes their entire existence. There's a lot of layers to this, you guys. When you do choose to make passing your goal and you decide to approach it, make sure you approach it with a self-love approach. When you are working on passing, make sure you are practicing self-love and remember why you want to pass. Not for a man, not for other people. This transition is for you to live your most authentic self as best as possible. It's for you. This transition is for you. The quality of life is for you. All of this is for you. Remember that. And you guys always hear me saying celebrate every milestone, because it's like everything adds up and it begins to make a difference. 1 month on HRT, 1 year on HRT, you finished this procedure, you invested in that, you got this changed. Celebrate every single milestone because it brings you a step closer to passing. This is not me saying passing is the ultimate end game, but once you get to the point of passing, it changes the game. Another thing I want to say is you do not need to pass to be beautiful. So it's like, I always hear people say, can someone be pretty and not pass? And it's like, yeah, there are so many pretty people that do not pass as cisgendered, and that's okay. You guys can still be pretty, you guys can still be baddies, you guys can still be cute as you are making that transition. But it's like, at the same time, not everybody who passes is hot. You get what I'm saying? Just like how not everybody hot is someone who passes. Like, you can be a regular girl who just passes and that's it. You can be a baddie who passes. You can be a baddie, period. But it's like, do you get what I'm saying? Don't let passing determine your worth as an individual in this world. There are other things that make you special, and you need to remember that. When you are approaching passing, make sure you are prioritizing self-care. Make sure you're taking time to do the things you love. This journey in your transition from crossing over to passing is not an easy journey, and there are highs and lows, so make sure you are actively practicing self-love, taking time out to do the things that make you happy, taking time to do things that make you feel feminine, just doing things that make you feel like yourself, and be consistent with that. Just affirmations of who you are. Address yourself properly as your proper name. Address yourself with the pronouns. When you're speaking to yourself internally and externally, address yourself properly so that you know, like, passing isn't just something you get to. And I'm saying this as I'm not all the way there either. Give yourself the chance to see yourself as your authentic self. Do not limit yourself. Do affirmations, do self-care. Take the challenge head on, but like, don't lose yourself in trying to pass. I just want to close this off with saying passing isn't everything, but now you can begin to see why it does matter a lot and why it has a big impact on your life as a transgendered person, whether we like to say it or not. But thank you for watching, and the doll's offline.